Joseph Johnson there on the August 10 incident that happened over a year ago. Let me bring you in, Abdurrahman, on this. It's been over a year now, and so many things around that incident have happened, vis-a-vis a committee being set up to look, and that report being made out and presented to the president. Firstly, let's go back a bit to that day. As a journalist, how would you describe what happened?
Well, very striking, pretty much disturbing, especially was when the peace and tranquility of the state then was threatened. But over and above, I would rather want to put it in a rather succinct way that there was nothing like an intelligent failure. There was nothing like a lack of security preparedness in all of these, because the signals were very glaring. The indicators were clear. The August 10 is a consequence of a rather divisive state. The August 10 is a consequence of a gross indiscipline. The August 10 was a consequence of utmost lawlessness by, irate youths. But over and above, let's take our time off to look at the negative impact of the social media, where there are many incitements coming from the social media that keep telling people to do what is unwanted in the first place, threaten the peace and security of the state. The incidents did occur, but the signals were there. It started off with a sit at home, for which the security sector got an inkling as to what will happen the other day, and they were pretty much ready. Had it not been for the swift intervention of the security sector, coordinated by no less a person, the National Security Coordinator at Office of National Security, Abdullah Kolka, Elisa Vama, the August 10 should have engulfed this country into a brutal annihilation. And the youth, to a larger extent, we are in restless readiness to go the opposite way, and which I believe should not have augured well for the citizenry of the state. And coming down to some of this recommendation, there was never a doubt when Dr. Emmanuel Abdullahi Safar was appointed to actually champion the cause of this investigation, and he came out with a very solid recommendation. But one thing over time that has been pretty much disturbing in our society, incidents do occur, committees were set, recommendations where investigation has been conducted. Perhaps a committee will come out with such recommendation, but the implementation process of all of these, you noted, I mentioned that one of the consequences of these is divisiveness. That's cohesion in the state. We are pretty much political, you understand? And granted that in one of the recommendations, it was noted by a reporter that there was nothing like an input from the main opposition, and they too condemned it. You heard what Honorable Abdul Kabo did say, and this for me was a case of the irate youth versus the state. And there are lessons learned. And I'm sure ever since the August 10, the security sector, there are things you don't discuss, especially things that borders around intelligence and security. We hardly ever come out with such discourse on air. But the security sector is in a better footing now to see what prevailed. Even let's take aside the August 10. There was even a threat of mounting a demonstration, wild demonstration in August 10, 13, going to 14. And the security sector got an inkling of all of these. And had it not been for their swift intervention, we saw what is currently prevailing in our society. So it tells you that the wherewithal from the security apparatus, their effective coordination, they will never allow to be taken aback.
Was that incident a one-off? Before I bring in Solomon, was that incident a one-off, or did we have other incidents that were brewing that should have given insight, whether to government or security apparatus, that there are certain people who command, whether large following or listening across different platforms, who can call on people to come out? And are we still having those concerns even after August 10?
Well, if I dare say no, then to me, I may sound a little bit reckless. Sorry for the word. But indeed, there are people with some reckless charismatism. Reckless charismatism. You know, a charismatic leader emerges in a society, in a period of, in a very challenging situation. That's what my lecturer told me, Dr. Emmanuel Gaima. A charismatic leader emerges during challenging periods. For want of better word, when there are challenging periods, they will tell you, this will they do today. You see, people don't question what he says, they just follow suit to say, we can toe the line. Yes, indeed. They've got a lot. There are voices out there that keep telling people, because it's dictation and spelling. You do this. This is all in the interest of creating an enlightened mind. This is all in the interest of emancipation. This is all in the interest of rather unseating a democratically elected government. This is all in the interest of creating a kind of unrest in the state. Yes. They deem to be seen as a charismatic leader. If you want to deny that, it continues to happen, right? The Adebayo keeps sitting there outside there. He calls on people without questioning his motive. People follow, they jump in the bandwagon and decide to do what they think is right on their side without questioning the consequences of those actions. Mm-hmm. So yes, the definitive answer to a question is there are reckless charismatic leaders. Right. That keep fooling people, either inadvertently for their own personal aggrandizement or on the basis of wanting to see what can be done to have a political governance shifted from one point to another.
Solomon, let me bring you in. There's also another spectrum to the August 10 incident that happened, and that's the economic issues that were raised by most or some of these protesters who are out on the street. On the cost of living, prices hiking, etc., etc. And even after that incident, from the committee itself, the committee highlighted that those were concerns that were raised by people throughout those protests. But I want to ask, from the civil society point of view, having looked at what happened on August 10 and from Bianque Foundation and having gone through everything, have we solved or have we put any measures in place to solve most of those concerns, legitimate economic concerns that were raised, devoid of the political incline that was behind those protests, but economic issues were also raised? Are we in its trajectory to solving them?
Well, I would say the August, I will start from the 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th incidents, which cumulates to, what we saw leading to violence. It's because most of, our authority failed to idea on issues or informations or things boiling, right, within the citizenry. I will start by naming them. When we add the information, just like what my brothers, said, about somebody who is sitting there having a huge followers, right? And at a particular time using a situation, right, to, brainwash the, unfaithful citizens who are quick to listen to some of those guys for their own personal or whatever reason you may put it in the political limelight. But he succeeded in doing that because our leaders failed to do the needful. And what are they? Where in this country we heard about people, shouting about economic crisis, that things are difficult, and that the prices are not in favor of the common citizen, and, the way authorities are treating them. We saw exactly, even before the August 10, the ECR machines, when the NRA introduced, all of those things, we saw exactly the demonstration, sit down strike, we start airing them. You know, these were the basis, economic challenges. I was expecting at that time, because we raised some of these things, that those who are in authority, like the Ministry of Trade, the Ministry of Transport, all those sectors or the security apparatus, to take this into, you know, a very serious, you know, issues that they should put measures in place, but they failed to. I was on one of your sister program, for which my brother here was the presenter. I said, if we are really smart enough, this is the time, because we all knew that the police are, I mean, within these circumstances, they are not in good relationship with most of the citizens. I would take from the keke riders. We saw exactly where tension starts building up. Where the other day we saw where keke and the, you know, security forces from Lumley, we saw these were the issues exactly building up to August 10. But again, what we saw is, you know, the unpreparedness from the security sector. When he asked me that question, I said, I would prefer the military to take the mantra, to take to the streets, for them to put the citizens on their guard. If even they want to demonstrate for issues that we all know is, you know, affecting all of us, that is their democratic right. In the democratic society, you will not say people will not demonstrate or exercise their franchise. Give them the chance and the area to do so, right? But again, what happened, we saw again the negligence on their aspect, even though they came in later. But all of those issues, what the committee, you know, brought out later to the president, those were the concerned. Economic challenges, price hiking, bad governance, people were doing things out of the way. So for me, it is an example for us now to say, when citizens are yearning or calling for, you know, issues boiling around economic issues, we should pay attention. When citizens are saying these are the things bothering them, authorities should pay attention. When citizens are crying for issues bothering within, you know, the laws, the judiciaries, or whatever, when we come here and sit and express or explain to those authorities for them to listen, this is the time now for them to really pay attention to us, the citizen, because we will not just come and sit here to just come and express ourselves for no good reason. We did our research. We know exactly what we are here for. So for me, August 10th give us now the good footing as to how you can treat your citizens when they brought up issues that's bothering them within economic challenges or whatever reasons they brought up.
All right, Aruama, before you come in, let me quickly go through the messages on this issue before we go to the next one. Yusuf Monsire Suma is saying the lack of regulations of citizen journalism has been a great fault in the side of government. So why was the Cybersecurity Act enacted in Parliament in the first place? And Joe Bokari says, remember, the protest only took place in the APC strongholds in the guise of it being done for economic reasons. Monsire Suma also say, from the looks of things, I don't think youth are in any way ready to adhere to inciting messages from any individual or political party to cause mayhem or unrest for peaceful citizens. And Joe says, youth do not just go out. Youth did not just go out on that day. They were sponsored, organized, and incited across social media platforms.
Yes, I just want, before Adraman took, that was the area. On the area of, you know, the youth or people who said, the incited people. Yes, we are saying the regulations of social media, even though if you go to the cyber units, they will tell you they have certain, you know, laws that's, you know, impeding them not to even able to bring somebody or whoever does something wrong against the state. For me, that's the area I think the government should put premium on. In as much as we are saying, our cyber units within Africa, we are second. Let us do the needful. The needful are, if there are law, we should now start propagating those laws that if you do X, Y, and Z, there are laws that will bite you, or there are laws that will haunt you, for which wherever you are, they will be able to extradite you. And that is what we are seeing, just like what Adroman said. Had it not been the robustness of our cyber security sector, all what we are now saying here could have been in other situations for which they are alleging that coups supposed to take place one way or the other, or to kick out the democratically elected government. So these are the area I think governments need to really put premium on. Getting out, telling people, doing outreach, just like what the security sector now is doing. Explain to citizens that you should not listen to incitement. Don't take information that are not in favor of the state, or sending X, Y, and Z from each or any other blogger, for us not to go into what we saw August 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10 again.
Okay, I think for those that sent out those messages, I would rather want to put it this way, that they hold firm to their opinions, but to say their views are valid is up to the public to adjudge. But if you take your time, my brother, to read The Economics of Social Unrest by Philip Barrett and Sophia Chen, it tells you there are economic considerations that act as a driving factor. The protest, to a larger extent, should be seen on the basis of wanting to influence government policies that do the right thing, just as what my colleague has said, and enact the desired change. Things are extremely difficult. We should not shy away from that.
Sure.
And in those recommendations by Dr. Safabullah, he mentioned all of those things.
Yeah.
And the government should not pay a lip service to all of those considerations, because you are dealing with a very delicate demographic, the youthful population. They are very delicate. You understand? These are soldiers of fortune. When you don't give them job to do, the question of employment and unemployability, because when you talk of unemployment, is the aspect where governments don't create the desired climate for people to be absorbed into working classes. But employability goes with skill. You have a knowledge. You are a media guru. This is the reason why you are employed here. I have a reason why I am employed at Star Television. Employability comes to play. Unemployment, it's like there is a non-classification of the job characteristics itself that can absorb you. So you look in between all of these aspects and say, what is required of us as a government? You owe the people of this country a duty of care. You take up responsibility as government to ensure you provide security, health, all of these things for the citizens of a state. So I dare say, with the recommendation, yes, they should not be seen put on a shelf. Try to see what committee should be formed, how those implementation could be addressed, to ensure you engage the youth rather resourcefully. Otherwise, we'll keep seeing, I don't pray for us to have a recurrence of the August 10, but if we don't careful, and those things are given a lip service into all of these, then there is no way you can stop people from not demonstrating. Either consciously or unconsciously. They will take to the social media and decide to do. Let me tell you something. The regulation of the social media in itself is just a lip service. You talk about cyber. Take your time to go through all that document, a bulky document. We don't have the wherewithal in this country. Even the best of democracies, America, UK, all of these people, they are finding it extremely difficult to see how they can mitigate the negative impact of social media, least to talk of Sierra Leone.
Yeah. All right. Continue to do, Judge Gentleman. Let me go over to our next speaker. Now, the Chief of Defense Staff of the Republic of Sierra Leone Armed Forces, Major General Peter K. Lavaun, says Sierra Leone's involvement in an ECOWAS intervention mission in Niger following a military coup that ousted the elected government of President Mohamed Bazoum will only be triggered by a directive from the presidency. He was reacting to a question on whether Sierra Leone is prepared to provide its officers to be part of a regional military intervention force. Mohamed Bakar Kamara has more.
When President Ahmed Tinubu of Nigeria took the helm of affairs in the West African region bloc of countries last month, he reaffirmed that there is no room for military coups in Africa countries. A week later, a general took power in Niger and held Mohamed Bazoum, the president, hostage at his residence. However, the capture of political power in Niger military triggered speculation about the possibility of a regional military intervention, something the Sierra Leone Chief of Defense Staff says they have no plans to interfere unless they have directives from the above.
But coming to ECOWAS, the ECOWAS get to take on the ECOWAS standby force, we don't develop. As Mr. Minister said, Sierra Leone is part of ECOWAS active member. We belong, before now, we don't pledge what we call a company for that ECOWAS standby force. It's still active, the pledge is still active. But for if anything, we never go inside, that's we can go at the highest level. Decision-making body. Of course, we all know the president and parliament. I don't get that authority for Sierra Leone, Niger, or anywhere to pass again. We have directives from the highest level.
Meanwhile, the Minister of Information and Civic Education, Mohamed Bass, said Sierra Leone is part of ECOWAS and they are behind ECOWAS in whatever decision they take.
ECOWAS to employ other means, including mediation, and part of the strategy that in the hope, say, the military coup leaders then currently will see reason based on their engagement and they will not get to that position. But the government of Sierra Leone, a member of ECOWAS and the government of Sierra Leone, they support and fully be in line with the ECOWAS position. So I would say that we make that clear.
It could be recalled that 7 days ultimatum to reinstate the president of his military intervention expired and defied by the junta regime. But ECOWAS authority of head of states will be meeting to find possible solution after 2 weeks of coup. Mohamed Bakar Kamara, AYV News, Freetown.
Right there, and I'd like to start off with you, Abdurrahman. Yes, for a particular reason. For a particular reason, with your extensive knowledge and research on military operations.
Exactly.
And I have spoken with political analysts on whether we are witnessing a wave of military coups as we had in the 70s and 60s across West Africa, and we've seen states Mali, Guinea, Burkina Faso, and Niger going into that direction, and there are also legitimate concerns and legitimacy concerns of democratically elected governments in Nigeria, in Sierra Leone. Here we can dispute that as well. So the issue of we saw what happened with Yahya Jammeh. There was an intervention, a military intervention to our
led by
state.
the Senegalese
Yes, through ECOWAS. And one would have expected that would have been done for Mali, that would have been done for Guinea, and there wouldn't have been a question of whether ECOWAS would have done that for Niger. And the question will be again, why is Niger's case different? And why isn't ECOWAS doing anything for Guinea or for Mali or for Burkina Faso? But then looking at the Sierra Leonean context of whether we should join ECOWAS, if ever there's going to be a military intervention into Niger. What's your take on that?
Well, to start off with, I would rather want to acknowledge the reality that there is a resurgence in terms of military coups in Africa. That's the emergent threat. But taking it to, let's move it from the particular, let's move it from the general to the particular. You're asking, according to the Chief of Defense Staff, Lieutenant General Peter K. Lavahon, his response, I was there, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, when a question was posed to him as to what will be the participation of Sierra Leone's troops to the ECOWAS standby force. Mark you, we have, for public knowledge, we have three defense missions. Defense mission A is external aggression. Defense mission B is helping out on peace support operations, and as well as helping the political administration. This is where the loyalty of the military comes in, protecting the political administration of the democratically elected government. You understand? You see, when military officers, we are on training, when they are done with their training at Benguima, You see, they raise their heads in allegiance that we are here to protect the territorial integrity of the state, as well as, giving our loyalty to the government of the day. You cannot contribute troops, even with the thought of making a kind of forming troops formation to go to the ECOWAS. It requires a nod from the highest defense council, and that should be taken to Parliament for ratification. You cannot just jump in, or you say, because I'm the Chief of Defense Staff, I have my Commander Joint Force at Cochrane, Major General Fred Alpha, who will just decide to say, let's galvanize our troop and move. No, it has to do with the consent of the Commander-in-Chief and the fountain of honor. That is no less a person, His Excellency the President. And he himself is subjected to getting this to the Defense Council, the highest security body in the state. If they saw the need that we need to commit troops, we already have a company. A company for public knowledge is a formed troops of something like a 200. 4 platoons, 50-50 put together, you have 200. They are there. If for any reason that should serve the actual purpose of sending our own contribution, because we are part of ECOWAS, we cannot sit by and see. When we are battling with our 11-year rebel war, we saw the ECOMOG intervention, and we too need to replicate. But these are talks that are currently ongoing. I'm not sure whether there is an absolute commitment yet to see whether to give a final signal as to whether ECOWAS should spring into this. And you ask a question. It's happening in Guinea, it's happening in Mali. Let's take, for instance, what is called in our historical terms the territorial armor force. America, France, they have influence as a result of the large deposit of uranium in Nigeria.
Yeah.
So their influence is highly tied in that particular country. A defeat on their interest could be a defeat on their economic interests. So they are battling the tooth and nail to ensure they have a government that is always in support of them. The Blood Diamond, a case in Sierra Leone, the Blood Diamond. You think our war was fought on the grounds of just mere hatred? It has an internalization of our conflict. There are many other Western wars for which they focus their attention in our rough diamonds. How many diamonds we are taking out of here? So you begin to ask the question of what interest? Are we beginning to see the new scramble and partition of Africa? A neo-colonialism? Yes. These are questions we begin to ask ourselves of what interest. But labeling this to our own contribution, we have, I say we as if I'm a military officer, we already have a formed troop, that's a company that is ready when once the chief, the commander-in-chief, His Excellency the President, could say, I'm given the green light, then Sierra Leone will join the ECOWAS standby troops to see what possible intervention could be therein. But that in itself could be a war of attrition, pretty much bloody, because the contended interests. Burkina Faso has got to the side of Niger. Mali has demonstrated its willingness to be on the side of Niger. Guinea as well. America, I'm not sure they have a standby troops in Niger. Right? Think of the Sahel. It's like an entry port. There are many competing interests. France has a standby troops in Niger. And Nigeria will definitely lead the troop as a big brother in Africa. If we have our company to send there, we too will be part of the ECOWAS force. But the general consideration here is that will be a war of attrition. It will be extremely bloody.
Let me bring in Solomon. As highlighted by Abdurrahman, you have states who are currently being run by military heads who, to a very large extent, have the backing of Russia. And who are saying that they can also wage war against other West African states if they decide to go into Niger. And there are other possible ways also we can look at.
Has that been confirmed?
we can't confirm that, but there are possible ways we can look at this.
No.
If West African states are considering military intervention. There are also peaceful intervention through which West African states can consider. Dialogue, for example, can be one thing. And we saw that also being exhibited in Sierra Leone with the peace accords that were done with Fode Sankoh even before the intervention. So can we have a mediation? I'm asking you because of your civil society background.
Yes.
We are leaving the military argument now.
Exactly.
Can we have a peaceful solution wherein we can dialogue as a West African state with these military heads?
I think for me, that's the new trends in governance. For us campaigner, we always say when you talk of good governance, there is dialogue within, success. For every time you see where military interventions go or coup d'etat took place, it means that there was nothing like dialogue within the governance setting, to answer your question. But let me go back to what our Chief of Defense Staff said. Sierra Leone is a sovereignty state. This now tell people who just think any Jack and Jane can just take on Sierra Leone. It means that for whatever things Sierra Leone want to go through, our parliament, with all the powers the Chief of Defense Staff have, it cannot just go and meet with the joint force, or because Sierra Leone is part of ECOWAS or ECOMOG, just to take troop and go there. It has to be approved by our parliament and His Excellency the President. But you mentioned why Mali, and there was nothing, shows from ECOWAS and Guinea as well. For me, I am not here to justify coup d'etat. We are against it. We condemn coups, but we always want to speak to our leaders. When you take up the mantle of leadership, for me, democracy, no matter the phrases you give to democracy, what the people elected you for, do the needful. If you said you are going to feed the people of Sierra Leone, feed them. Whatever you said you will do, make sure you are adhere to it. And if for any reason, right, we have external factor, like for example, the COVID and other related matters, come back to us, the citizen who elected you, tell them that this is what is happening within the world. Don't keep us in shallow, because governance is not a secret society. So for me, all what we are seeing within the Francophone country, it has started long time ago. Let's take, for example, the Mali situation. The Malians, we are grumbling that they have these factions. The Tuaregs were alongside fighting for other reasons, for good governance. But what happened? I think even our colonial masters, they need to, start reviewing themselves or their personal interest or gain. If they want to really benefit, they should make sure wherever their interests are, protect those countries, do the needful for the people, make sure you teach them or let them enjoy their own, resources. The Malians are saying all their mineral or whatever resources they are getting is 85% is going to France. They are just having 15%. And that 15% goes with what? Conditionalities. When you want to loan, they give you stiffer conditions. It is their money, but being regulated by external factor. For me, I think our colonial masters should start realizing or thinking of what is happening now, the trends within Africa. You go back to Guinea, very close, our neighbor, right? You see exactly what transpired there. Mm-hmm. For me, I see no reason why Professor Konde, who has built the democratic credentials, the foundation, like what Tijan Kaba did, blessed memory, for us in Sierra Leone, he has no reason for him to go for third term or manipulating the constitution, right? That was where he got it wrong. We are not saying that should be repressive, but let the politicians start to know that there are certain things you don't stimulate, coup. That is, the military, they are just like what the three section my brother quoted. One, you have the political allegiance side, which the military, their allegiance is to the states, right? But on the other side, no matter what you do, they are there to save lives and property and territorial integrity. The military will not sit and see us, the citizens, suffering. When push camp and shove, they will say, no, this don't pass smart. That was where we are calling on our leaders, please do the needful for your citizens. You go to Niger. Niger, you see exactly the manipulation of their constitution, where the president said no term limits. How can you do that, right? Looking at what the deposit of uranium they have in Niger, if you look at that country, they are poor. Are they benefiting? Because that's the other thing. My brother spoke of neo-colonialism. I would say that was what Kwame said. Even though we have gained our independence, we should fight for it. We should make sure that those who colonize us not to come back, because we have the materials. Sierra Leone, for example, why do you think we got into conflict? Because they are just sitting by, waiting for us, to spark, and they will come now with their UN. I saw something in Congo where the UN, with all what they are doing, but they are exploiting the Congolese with huge chunk of goals, right? So for me, for us to avoid military intervention in governance, let our leaders, our democratically elected, leaders, do the needful for the citizen, and also let other people know that the Francophone-speaking country are not like this English-speaking country. We know better, and we are more democratic. I see no reason we can talk of economic hardship. We can talk of any other reason. But for me, Sierra Leone, we are far more better than most of those other countries who are not democratically inclined.
All right, apologies, we barely have 8 minutes more. Let's look at our last story, and another, also an interesting point I like your view on, Abdurrahman. Now, in a strong stance against the illicit drug trade, the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency of Sierra Leone, in an interview, has issued a warning to individuals involved in the selling, importing, and manufacturing of illegal substances, particularly Kush. The agency's public relations officer, Ibrahim Kabo, says they are determined to curtail the rising usage of these substances, which has resulted in a concerning increase in the death of young people throughout the country. Let's join Christopher Kewu.
So this just happened now. The time now 7:15 after 7 at Gino.
This is the grafting community, and I'm currently at the GDO field. And as you sing, this is the bench that you're seeing currently on social media, where a young boy was sitting to have a smoke. But according to allegation, they said he was smoking Kush and he fell dead. But we're here to talk to the community people for them to express what they think about drug abuse and how or what they want from the government in order to combat drug abuse.
Really, drug business at this area is on a rampage. We get different youth man right now that don't lost their focus just because of drugs. Some man they get so full, some man they get swell food and all that. Some they even don't lost their insanity because they smoke too much of drugs. Even yesterday, one week colleague cancelled on he overdrugs himself and he died. Slowly he just died. So we plead to the government, at least let hospital the dinner every center as them. Because right now the area is them full of bobo the way they smoke push, stiff.
Because you are a young man then I believe say the thing for down at the country. But advice to run the way they counter maybe for talk for now. I dey see the man in the north. But I know if I see a kid, but I dey see the man in the north.
Sierra Leone will need to implement something, not to all my head call for book, at least from the freeway I the way they work. The sport them don't like. If the government spend money for every sector of sports, young man and they we believe the chance go there for will get, which we believe so will get. But as it is right now, not easy for we Sierra Leone because the only stuff how they get love, we the one that when they work now they get so. But also we all body cannot get so we smoke Kush. But Kush don't can give bad reputation to all the smoke man. But really, my government intervene.
This Kush here definitely the damage not to only to today or today generation, but the future Generation as well, if government not take the necessary measure as government, then now then get the burden of whatsoever people then what I left for government time day for the us. But if they sit down there, they make a blind eye, or they make like they never see the dangers or the impact of this crucial. If it and they don't increase crime rates.
Speaking about the severity of the issue, Ibrahim Kagbo, the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency's public relations person, highlighted the devastating consequences of kush usage on the country's youth. Kush is killing young people in Sierra Leone, and we cannot stand idly by, Kagbo expressed. Our primary responsibility is to safeguard the well-being of our citizens.
Well, we have the responsibility of the mandate as a law for us to prevent and control the use of narcotics. We mean hard drugs when we talk about narcotics here. I mean substances that are prohibited by law for people not to use them. We have that basic mandate or basic responsibility as an agency. And also we have the responsibility to raise awareness, to sensitize the general public on the harmful effects of these substances. And from what we have is that young people are more into drugs than you think of adults, those that are maybe 50 and above. Yeah, but young people. That is why I said in that age bracket, 15 to 9 are the ones that are mostly affected by the use of these substances now. And just for 2023, what we have now, that is from January to May for this year, we have 32 cases that are now in both the magistrate and then the high courts for trial again. And these again, young people are mostly the ones that are involved, the ones that are arrested and are before the courts of law.
In addition to law enforcement action, the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency recognizes the importance of preventing efforts and education, community outreach programs, including workshops, seminars, and awareness campaigns, will be conducted to educate the public about the dangers of drug abuse and its long-term consequences. That rejects the use of illegal substance. The agency aims to create a safer and healthier environment for all Sierra Leoneans. Christopher Kirun, AYV News, Freetown.
Many thanks to Christopher Kirun there. Let me bring you in on this, Abdurrahman. We seem to know the problem as it stands. We know it's drug-related. And we have institutions expected to tackle these problems. And why are we failing to tackle drug importation and drug use?
I must be sincere and frank in my response. I follow the reports with keen interest, and I'm aware as to what would have said by the PRO himself, Mr. Coup. But just to let you know, there are two strands to this. We have the imported drugs that keeps coming. We have, as of now, so I speak, the locally manufactured. And this is becoming pretty much challenging for the youth. You have an institution that has the statutory mandate to actually regulate, the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency, headed by no less a person, a retired Major Kagbo, who has got the foresight to ensure the right thing is being done. I tell you what, I've been following for the past couple of years that particular institution. For the government to know that that particular institution is grossly underfunded, that institution, even to undertake public education, they run to an NGO called Furut to assist them to undertake public education. Or the best, they partner with TOCA, the Transnational Organized Crime Agency, what used to know as TOCU. You understand? So you create institution that is primarily responsible to mitigate the impact of all of these challenges, yet you give lip service to this institution. Mr. Khan will not come on here, he's a government worker. He will not have the temerity to actually say, we are not giving that for want of better word. But I tell you, that particular NDLEA, National Drug Law Enforcement Agency, is grossly underfunded. They have nowhere to start. I pity I pity my good friend, retired Major Cargo, who is head of that particular institution. He has a willingness to push, but there is nothing, absolutely nothing. And I tell you, if this particular kush that is ravaging and killing many people now is the only legacy this current political administration is going to bequeath to the youth of this nation, I say it's a pity for His Excellency the President, Dr. Julius Maada Bio.
And that's what someone is asking, Mola Boy. He's saying this agency that wants to fight against drug, what is their yearly budget? Because I'm wondering, how can they fight a war that's worth billions?
They don't have anything as I speak. I say even to undertake a public education. Major Richard is listening to me. Mr. Kago is my good friend, the PRO. They are all listening to me. That agency is grossly underfunded. When they want to take public education and for roots, then they will give them small money for take 5 million euros for undertake and begin a big go on television and radio for good talk. Come on. Are you doing yourself a very good service? You owe the people of this country a duty of care. You owe them a duty of care. I've visited yesterday. I was going home. I saw so many youth. You understand, some of them with their swelling foot and all of this. It's the impact of this kush. What we used to know, if this is imported, we can have laws from the trade ministry to trigger a kind of prohibition. Say stop them. But these are now locally manufactured. Locally. Diamond bone. You keep asking, what are some of the driving factors? Idleness, lawlessness, lack of employment. Because as we normally say, it's becoming a cliche now. What did I say? The devil's mind, the devil's workshop, and idle mind, the devil's workshop. It's becoming a cliche. You understand? So what the government is actually doing to actually thwart all of these. So it's very challenging. The government itself is not helping that particular institution. Major retired Cargo may not want to say it. I will say it. His Excellency is listening to me. The Toku head, the director Asmana Idris is listening to me. Is my good friend. The head of Toka, the transnational organized crime, they are all listening to me. The NS Code, my good friend, you understand? Abulai Kolka, Avayama, they are all listening to me. What are you doing? What are you doing? I was at some dialogue session at some, Radisson Blue, and this issue came up.
Yeah.
You understand? When the issue was mooted up, you know what the IG said? Well, they say policemen they only take drugs, but even some civil society they say they take drugs. Even some journalists they say they take drugs. Were you know that?
That will come in.
You understand? So he said they are taking drugs. So the question is, you entrust a personnel with a weapon. Weapon handling is key. At normal circumstance, when he doesn't take drugs, they are trigger happy. Let alone he's under the influence of drugs. See them in uniform. You understand? I saw a clip yesterday, very unfriendly, of a military officer. Doing, of course, the rest is history. So you keep asking, under which influence? You understand? The CDS, I know his leadership ability, the Major General, the Commander Joint Force, all of them. He owns his army. They are there, they are doing their best. But the personal disposition of this, police personnel and military personnel is becoming pretty much unwanted.
Yeah. Right.
Who is there to actually save us? So God for us all, everyone for himself.
Let me bring in Solomon. Solomon, there are cliches around the drug issue. And I'll say this in Creole. People, and all of us to a very large extent, would have uttered this statement one way or the other. Say, we sabi whether then they bring this thing or whether then they make this thing. We sabi who side then they do, or who side then they manufacture, and police then sabi then cartel there, or then go sabi then one the way they put money or pour money per anything there. And like way Abu Aman say, the police themselves or other security personnel themselves they take her. Let's just not just
shy away
to the police.
Yes.
We've seen videos, evidence of military officers, police or soldiers, when they don't take them in there, how then they behave. So it's a social problem where we get institutions that we're not able to tackle because, like where Abdullah say, they don't have enough funds. They don't even get budget safe to take these up, and our security personnel who we expect, like you expect from any developed countries. You look at the fight against GOG, it's been taken by security forces. I think we concentrated so much on Jamba as a country that we don't forget say there are other drugs bad person, weed safe way. So socially, how we need to solve this problem?
Thank you. I think my brother mentioned, a whole lot of things within, the Kush taking. But he spoke about what drives the youth into, the Kush taking or drugs taking. Let me limit the argument within Kush, because for me, Jamba now or cannabis sativa, around the world, I will say other countries are making more money out of it for other reasons. For research being done by Dr. Sanji Cooper in America. You go to Morocco, you go to other countries, they are using cannabis sativa for other purposes, right? Which is now good, right? And even some parts of the West, they have started, declaring certain area you can smoke marijuana with limited, expectation. But on this Kush, my brother said, let's talk about the two phases. We have the imported ones. Who are bringing these imported ones in country? And if we are talking about, the locally manufactured ones, who are involved into those locally manufactured ones? We are seeing, youths going to, cemeteries, taking off, human bones from their graves. We are seeing all of this, right? And we are seeing the way they are preparing the substance, right? But you also ask, those agencies who are responsible for, disseminating messages, are they well capacitated? The answer here is no. They are lack of funding. The other day I was on, Star TV, dealing with this Kush issue for the rest of the program. My question I will ask, the moment I leave that place, the guy you mentioned who is in charge of the drug control unit, they call. It says, Solo, our problem is not that we don't want to reach out or call civil society to help us doing this campaign, but we don't have funding. And that is the truth. They are underfunded. And when dealing with issues related to drugs, my brother, the cartel alone, drug cartel, is people who are behind those cartel, they are monetarily equipped. They can fight or bulldoze their way, right? I will not say you policeman, wait till the way you talk into Creole, wait till they drive, then you turn them into the entire. Put and pandis. Paddy job no dey na the country. President don't talk about say it will create job for youth man them. And that's not the area where I think the government need for put premium. Say, let us create more job, because as he said, the idle mind is the devil's workshop. But again, I always say, if you continuously, use to take this substance for your problem to solve, it will not solve. It will not even ease the problem. Because the sooner you take the substance, it's just for a while. After some moments, you get again thinking into the same problem. So what we need to do to negligate some of these things, those who are in charge, and this is no secret, let the president know that under his administration, this is a battle that he needs to fight. He should take the bull by its horn. We are hearing so many names around importation of Kush. Big ones, right? That, they are superintending those cartels. So we want them to refrain from all of these things. As he mentioned, when we are at Radisson Blue, I even brought up the question to the IG, right? That's why are you not allowing demonstrations? He brought up his own that, when he took up office 1 year ago, nobody confronted him for any peaceful demonstration except SLP. My brother was there. And when we raised again the question of taking Kush, he also came out. Imagine, he said, you are just focusing your attention on the security apparatus. What about those journalists? What about the civil society? What about those authorities? Big guys in society are taking this thing. But you are just pointing finger at us because we are at the limelight. And it's true. Because if you are the one safeguarding lives and property, right? If you are the one to chase those guys who are who are dealing with this cartel or selling this Kush, right? If you are taking it, then it's like you are also a contributor to the failure of those youths. You are the police. then now they can't turn policeman, they can't police you. Who say you there where they go take your picture? We know the seller people don't enjoy themselves. We are not saying that. But respect the ground you own. Respect the uniform you wear. Respect the job or the oath you took. So that is our point. So all of those questions he raised at that time, it was not trying to downplay on the issue of Coup, but it is a very serious issue that this administration of His Excellency President Bill should take very good, action, right? Because we are hearing big names surrounding Coup, and if these names, please, today, after today, please restrain yourself or tell all those who are using your name, right, to import Coup in Sierra Leone for them to stop, because it's killing and destroying the fabric of our young guys coming up.
All right, and thank you very much, gentlemen. I'm afraid we've even eaten 10 minutes into the time, but it's equally important that we discuss this issue. And this is where we bring an end to the segment of Weekend Review. Thank you, gentlemen, for honoring our invitation.
Exactly.
I beg pardon, you don't pass 10 minutes past the hour. As our DJs will say, 10 minutes past the hour. and I'd like to say, of course, many thanks to my producer, Ronald Joe Morovia, for producing this show, and of course to our technical team. I've been your host, Bokari Matia. Until we meet again next weekend, by the grace of God, many thanks for watching and listening.